Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, today I invite you to reflect on a profound idea. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, today I invite you to reflect on a personal creator, a universal force, or the divine essence that flows through reality. If you are thought about persistence and creatives, divine essence that flows through all existence, that flows or essence, existence. Believing that God resides inside you influences your behavior, making your life more mindful, compassionate, and dignified. When we embrace the belief that God resides within us, our entire outlook on life undergoes a remarkable transformation. This idea is not just about religion, it's about identity. It becomes a personal realization that we are not separate from the divine, but intimately connected to it. When we internalize this, we begin to understand that our actions are not random or meaningless. They are extensions of something sacred. This awareness compels us to be more intentional, because every word we speak, every decision we make, carries the weight of divine energy behind it. We are no longer simply individuals moving through the world. We are representatives of something holy. This belief acts as a compass for our moral and emotional lives. Gossip, judgment, and cruelty feel incompatible. Free okata. Social culture, music, judgment, and cruelty is conceptual. The design. This level of accountability isn't forced or fearful. It's born out of reverence and self-respect. We start walking with more humility because we understand that our worth comes not from ego, but from the divine spark within. Furthermore, this belief enhances our compassion toward others. If God is within us, it means God is within them too. It becomes impossible to devalue, dismiss, or harm someone without recognizing that we are, in a sense, dishonoring the divine in them. This shift changes the way we speak to people, how we treat those who are different, and even how we respond to those who hurt us. We move from a place of reaction to a place of reflection. Our compassion becomes less conditional and more rooted in the understanding that all beings carry the same sacred light, even if it's hidden beneath pain or confusion. Finally, the presence of God within inspires dignity in our daily lives. It shapes how we carry ourselves, how we face challenges, and how we dream. We begin to walk through the world not with pride, but with quiet confidence, an unshakable knowing that our lives matter, that our presence has purpose. We learn to respect ourselves deeply, to treat our bodies and minds as temples of something holy. Whether we are at work, in relationships, or alone in silence, we act as if divinity is not just near us, but flowing through us. That belief, when fully embraced, becomes the foundation for a life of integrity, purpose, and grace. Living with the awareness of God within changes your everyday actions, encouraging you to speak and act with integrity, patience, and love. When we carry a conscious awareness of God within us, even the most ordinary moments become meaningful. Our days may begin the same way, waking up, getting ready, engaging in routine tasks. But something shifts internally. The way we approach our morning becomes more reflective, perhaps starting with a prayer, a moment of gratitude, or quiet acknowledgement of the divine presence inside. We begin to treat time as sacred, not something to be wasted or rushed through. We move with more deliberation, more grace, knowing that every moment is an opportunity to honor the presence of something greater within us. This daily consciousness fosters a kind of mindfulness that doesn't just exist during religious rituals, but extends into the entire day. This awareness gradually seeps into the way we speak and communicate. Words become more than sounds. They become expressions of the divine. We pause before reacting in anger or sarcasm. We ask ourselves, is this how someone who carries God within them would respond? Our speech becomes softer, kinder, and more purposeful. Compliments are no longer given for flattery, but as genuine reflections of truth and encouragement. Even when we must express discomfort, every time, I hope, the discipline of thoughtful communication becomes a decision of reverence. We must cross the discomfort or asari, become regist pressed. The fool born. Moreover, the awareness of God's presence within us influences how we treat others in everyday interactions. With family, friends, colleagues, or strangers, we begin to operate from a place of sacred respect. We resist the urge to judge or belittle, even when others fail to meet our expectations. We remember that they too are vessels of the divine, even if they are unaware of it. This leads to increased patience and forgiveness. It reminds us that people are more than their actions or flaws. It allows us to be more generous with grace, more open to listening, and more committed to creating harmony in our relationships. In this way, our everyday encounters become opportunities to live out the divine energy we believe dwells within. Finally, our actions, choices, and routines all begin to reflect a higher intention. Even the smallest decisions, what we eat, how we spend our time, how we react to stress, start to align with a deeper spiritual consciousness. When we act with the belief that God is within, we hold ourselves accountable in a way that is not shame-based but love-quick. Fondly strive for integrity, not to impress others, but because it feels disloyal to the divine essence inside us to do otherwise. We do not need applause to affirm our value. Our worth is sustained by the sacred source that lives in us. This daily moment-to-moment awareness becomes the root of a life that radiates honesty, peace, and purpose in all things. You don't wait for miracles. You act as the channel for good, becoming a living expression of divine intention. When you believe that God lives within you, the concept of waiting passively for change begins to dissolve. Instead of praying for miracles to fall from the sky, you start to realize that you are the miracle the world needs. You are the hands through which healing can happen, the voice through which truth can be spoken, and the heart through which love can be shared. This realization awakens a deep sense of personal responsibility. You begin to understand that your choices are not insignificant. They carry the weight of divine purpose. Each decision, no matter how small, becomes a chance to bring light into a darkened world, not because you are perfect, but because the divine spark within you seeks expression through your actions. This responsibility is not a burden, it is a gift. It empowers you to be an active participant in the unfolding of goodness. You no longer wait for others to lead, fix, or inspire. You become the initiator. If you see someone in need, you help. If you witness injustice, you speak. If you encounter division, you strive to unite. You stop asking, why doesn't someone do something, and begin asking, what can I do right now? Because you believe that God works through people, and you are willing to be one of them. This sense of purpose fills you with strength and direction, giving meaning even to the smallest of your tasks. Acting as a channel of divine good also transforms how you view your talents and capabilities. They are no longer seen as mere personal assets, but as tools entrusted to you for a higher cause. Whether you can teach, comfort, build, write, organize, or simply listen, these gifts are not accidental. They are sacred resources meant to serve others. You begin to cultivate your abilities not for fame or fortune, but to be of service. Every skill becomes an offering. Every effort becomes a prayer in motion. And in using what you have for good, you step into alignment with your true spiritual role, not as a spectator of miracles, but as a vessel through which they are made real. Now, profoundly, this sense of divine responsibility calls for consistency. It is easy to act with love in moments of calm, but much harder during moments of conflict, stress, or fear. Yet, believing that God is within challenges you to maintain your integrity through all seasons. It asks you to be a light even when the world around you grows dark. It invites you to rise above excuses and act in alignment with the divine nature you carry, whether anyone sees it or not. This is the essence of true character. Not driven by recognition, but by sacred conviction. And in living this way, you do not just wait for miracles to happen. You become the reason they do. Believing in God within provides courage and resilience during hard times, turning fear into faith and helplessness into hope. When life strikes with pain, loss, or confusion, it is natural to feel overwhelmed. Adversity tests not just our endurance, but our identity. In such moments, the belief that God resides within us becomes more than spiritual comfort. It becomes an unshakable anchor. We begin to draw strength not from external sources that may falter, but from an inner wellspring of divine presence that never runs dry. We stop asking, why is this happening to me? And begin asking, what strength is rising within me to face this? This perspective does not erase the hardship, but it reframes it. It tells us that within our souls lies the same creative power that designed the stars. and that power is actively moving through our pain with purpose. The realization of divine presence inside us turns fear into faith. Where fear paralyzes, faith empowers. Instead of spiraling into panic, we begin to breathe deeper, stand taller, and face our difficulties with sacred courage. We stop believing we are alone in our suffering and start understanding that God walks with us from within. This changes everything about how we handle setbacks. Challenges that once made us question our worth now become opportunities to discover our inner fortitude. We begin to hear the quiet voice of God saying, "You are enough. You are stronger than you know. You are not forsaken." With this belief, even silence feels like prayer, and even tears become sacred expressions of trust. This inner connection does not just help us survive adversity, it transforms how we grow from it. When we believe that divine presence lives within, we see every struggle as a chance to deepen our understanding, strengthen our resilience, and expand our capacity for empathy. We begin to recognize that suffering is not always a punishment, but often a passage, a refining fire through which the soul learns humility, surrender, and strength. We become more patient with ourselves and more forgiving of our stumbles. We understand that brokenness does not diminish the divine within us, it reveals it. The scars we carry no longer symbolize weakness, but testify to the sacred strength that got us through. And in time, that same inner strength becomes something we can offer to others. Because we have drawn courage from the divine within ourselves, we become capable of helping others do the same. We stop merely offering advice and start offering presence. We listen more, judge less, and carry light into the dark spaces of others' lives. Not because we are saviors, but because we know what it means to be saved from within. Our experience of hardship, infused with divine strength, becomes a bridge of hope for someone else. We move through the world not hardened by what we've endured, but softened by the grace that saw us through it. You begin to see the divine in everyone, transcending labels and divisions, which fosters empathy and unity. When we truly believe that God resides within us, a natural extension of that belief is realizing that the same divine presence lives within others. This recognition alters how we view the people around us, even those we may dislike, disagree with, or misunderstand. No longer do we see others as mere individuals, shaped by their faults, pasts, or appearances. We begin to see them as sacred beings, carrying within them the same spark of divinity that we hold dear within ourselves. This shift in perspective transforms judgment into compassion and contempt into curiosity. We are no longer quick to label others as inferior, unworthy, or beyond hope, because we recognize that the divine does not play favorites. God lives in the hearts of all, not just the virtuous or spiritual, but in the broken, the angry, the confused, and the lost. This vision softens our hearts and deepens our empathy. Instead of reacting to someone's flaws or failures with condemnation, we begin to respond with understanding. We start to ask, what pain shaped this person? What struggles are they carrying? We begin to look past the surface and into the soul. This doesn't mean we excuse wrongdoing or remain passive in the face of injustice, but it means we approach others from a place of compassion rather than superiority. We understand that just as we are navigating life's complexities while carrying the divine within, so are they. with, there is no complete limit to what we would care to the correction and uplift. Furthermore, seeing the divine in others reshapes how we interact with the world on a broader level. Social, cultural, and religious barriers begin to dissolve. We become less attached to external identities, race, nationality, gender, class, and more committed to our shared humanity. We begin to advocate for justice, not because it's politically correct, but because it's spiritually aligned with our inner truth. We engage in conversations and relationships with openness and humility, because we are meeting not just a person, but a reflection of God. This is how peace becomes possible, not through politics alone, but through people who choose to see the sacred in one another. This sacred vision of others also transforms our closest relationships, our families, friendships, and communities. Because their light does not diminish our own. Despite being susceptible with our loved ones, more willing to forgive and more invested in their growth, we celebrate their successes not with envy but with genuine joy, because their light does not diminish our own. In fact, it reminds us that the divine presence within us is connected to a greater collective spirit. We begin to live with the awareness that every soul we encounter is a mirror reflecting something holy back to us. And in that reflection, we find not only them, we find ourselves, and we find God. This mindset frees you from external validation. Your power comes from divine confidence, not the opinions of the world. Unde ikhda kam karne. When you live with the belief that God resides within you, a new kind of power begins to awaken, one that is no longer dependent on the world's approval. You stop chasing validation from external sources, because your sense of worth is no longer tied to applause, status, or recognition. Instead, you begin to anchor yourself in something deeper and more enduring: divine confidence. This is not arrogance. It's the quiet, unwavering assurance that you are already enough, already valuable, already complete, because the Creator Himself is alive within you. You do not need to strive to prove yourself to others, because you have already been affirmed by the very source of life. This spiritual empowerment allows you to make decisions with greater clarity and courage. You begin to trust your intuition more deeply, not because you're always right, but because you believe that divine wisdom is flowing through your conscience. You are no longer easily swayed by trends, peer pressure, or fear of judgment. You choose paths aligned with your inner truth, even if they are unpopular or difficult. Whether it's in your career, your relationships, or your personal goals, you move forward with a sense of purpose and direction. You stop needing constant reassurance, because your confidence is not fragile. It is rooted in something eternal. The presence of God within becomes your compass, your guide, and your source of strength. In this empowered state, your relationship with failure and rejection also transforms. Where once a setback might have shattered your self-worth, Now you are able to rise again with dignity. You understand that your value does not decrease just because you've been misunderstood, criticized, or overlooked. Instead of internalizing failure, you extract wisdom from it and you keep moving forward. You no longer live for the crowd, you live from the soul. This shift not only deepens your resilience, but also gives you the freedom to take risks, to be authentic, and to step into your fullest potential without fear. You realize that when you act from a place of divine presence, even your missteps are part of a sacred journey. This kind of spiritual empowerment fosters a calm, grounded confidence that is unshaken by the chaos of the external world. You stop comparing yourself to others because you understand that your path is uniquely designed for you. You celebrate others' successes without questioning your own because you are no longer operating from a mindset of lack. There is no competition in the divine realm, only purpose. And when you begin to live with this awareness, you become more secure in who you are and more generous in how you uplift others. You walk through the world with a quiet, radiant strength, not shouting for attention, but shining from within. Living as if God is within you fills life with meaning, inspiring you to live purposefully and leave a legacy of love and light. When you embrace the belief that God resides within you, life no longer feels random or empty. It begins to take on a sacred shape. Your existence, once viewed as a series of obligations or routines, becomes a divine assignment. You realize you are not here by accident. You are here for a reason, a purpose that stretches beyond self-interest and survival. Each day becomes an invitation to express that purpose not just in grand gestures, but in the smallest actions. You start asking deeper questions. Not just what do I want to do, but what am I meant to do with the divine energy flowing through me? That inner questioning becomes the birthplace of direction, intention, and meaning. Living with divine purpose means being led by something greater than temporary goals or shallow desires. You begin to filter your ambitions through the lens of service, love, and truth. Success is no longer measured by titles, possessions, or applause, but by how faithfully you are living out the mission placed within your soul. Whether you're raising a child, creating art, teaching others, or simply being a compassionate presence in someone's life, you start to recognize that purpose can be fulfilled in many forms. The divine within doesn't demand that you be extraordinary in the eyes of the world. It asks that you be authentic, awake, and willing to be used for good. As this purpose becomes clearer, your daily choices begin to reflect it. You become more intentional with your time, your energy, and your relationships. You stop drifting and start designing a life that honors the sacredness within you. You're no longer content with living passively or pleasing others at the expense of your truth. Instead, you begin to build a life of contribution, one that adds value to the lives of others and aligns with the divine message written into your spirit. Purpose gives your life structure and depth. It becomes the internal fire that pushes you to keep growing, learning, and loving, even when it's difficult or inconvenient. Ultimately, this way of living naturally leads to the desire to leave a meaningful legacy. you believe it, a visage, spent in effort. When you believe that God is within you, you start living each moment with the awareness that what you do matters, that your kindness, your truth, your courage, and your love have eternal significance. You live not just to exist, but to leave the world better than you found it, led by the light of the divine that lives within. So let us walk forward with this truth rooted deeply in our hearts, that God is not distant or detached, but present within us, guiding, strengthening, and calling us to live with purpose and love. When we act as if God is within us, we rise above fear, judgment, and doubt. We begin to live not just for ourselves, but as vessels of grace, wisdom, and compassion in a world that desperately needs it. Let every thought, every action, and every word you speak reflect the divine light inside you. And in doing so, you will not only transform your own life, you will illuminate the lives of others, becoming a living testament to the sacred power that lies within.